Happy early Halloween, everybody! Welcome to DrawingWiffWaffles, and today I am going to be painting on a pumpkin. I thought about carving a pumpkin, but then I remembered, like, 7 or 8 years ago, I carved, and I spent hours and hours carving the Red Wing symbol in a pumpkin, and that's dedication. If you've ever seen the Red Wing symbol, you know what I'm talking about. But since then, I have been over carving pumpkins, so I thought, why don't I paint one? This is a drawing channel, so, you know, painting a pumpkin seems kind of reasonable. So I decided to paint two pumpkins. I'm painting a Frankenstein pumpkin and a vampire pumpkin. And if you see right here, the Sharpie I used on the pumpkin just washed off with the paint. But you know what? We're just going to eyeball it from here out. There's going to be a lot of, like, you know, trial and error with this. And I'll cover that later. But it was a bit of a fun experiment. You know, it was definitely out of my comfort zone. Like, I don't paint pumpkins on a regular basis, so it was a lot of fun. And I decided to color the stumps on the top because I think that looks cool. Yeah. So that's the Frankenstein with the green on the front and the black on the back. But I did have a problem with the green because I had a little bit of water on the brush when I went to use my green paint. And if you want to know, I'm using acrylic paints for all this, unless otherwise noted. But there was too much water on my brush because I had just cleaned my brush, and so when I went to go paint the Frankenstein pumpkin, it's very translucent and see-through, and you could see the orange behind it. So that was a bit of a boo-boo. And now I am painting the vampire pumpkin, and you see it had all these warts on the back. That's why I chose the clean side for the front of the face, and then the back I used the warty side. And then that, I mean, I just covered it over anyway, so. I just drew a negative heart shape on the front, so like I didn't paint the heart, and then I painted black around a heart shape, and that's going to be the face of my vampire girl. And then this is the Frankenstein, and I'm just going over it, and this is when I realized, yeah, the acrylic paint with water in it is taking much longer to dry than the black paint without water in it. So I just was covering over and trying to figure out what shape I wanted because I had painted over my lines and they just completely evaporated. And then this is where I decided to go over with another coat of the paint. But I really liked the color originally better because I think it was mixing, well, because it was translucent, you could see the orange through it, and it was a much dirtier, grimier green, you know, a little bit more Halloween-y and spooky. But when I went and painted over it with, you know, without water on my brush anymore, it was much more of like a mint chocolate chip ice cream green, which, I mean, I love, but it's not quite, it didn't quite fit with the Frankenstein-y theme. I feel like it was a little too bright, but it was alright. And then here is where I realized I was going to paint a vampire, and it was going to have a white face, but I realized that I had absolutely no white acrylic paints, because if you've ever done acrylic painting, you know white is what you run out of first, every time. So I, like, dug in my old, like, drawer of, like, random art supplies, and I found one tiny little bottle, barely any left, of white watercolor paint. And I just had to make it work, you know? So here, at first I didn't put any water in it to try and make it as opaque as possible. But then I ran out, so I had to start adding water to the paint. And I just did a bunch of coats until it was pretty opaque. And I think it worked pretty well. It's not waterproof anymore, so I can't really put it outside. But hey, for the purposes of me finishing the drawing, it worked out pretty well. Now I am doing Frankenstein's bangs, because in all the references I looked, whenever someone did like a cartoon Frankenstein, he always had these like triangle bangs on top, so I decided to incorporate that into mine, and it definitely helped, because I did a few sketches like before I started painting the pumpkins to figure out what I wanted it to look like, and the little triangle bangs definitely helped. So that's something I decided to incorporate. Now I'm just adding his green ears by painting the hairline and not painting where the ears would be. And then I did the same on the other side with the bangs and then the ear. It's funny how calming painting can be, you know, like you don't really think about what it needs to look like, you're just sort of like painting the whole thing. Which is why there's a lot of edits in this video. I like edited it out when it started getting way too repetitive. Like, you don't want to watch me paint an entire pumpkin one solid color. Like, there's no interest in that. So there's a little bit different editing with this video than with my like digital speed paints. And then once I had finished the bangs on Frankenstein, I moved on to my vampire. And originally I wanted her to have purple eyeshadow, but I didn't have any purple paint. I had a bottle that looked purple, and when I used it, it was this blue color. So I just had to go with it, you know, move along. But I do like the blue. I think it did make it's much cooler tones than the purple would have been. Like, the purple has a little bit warmer. So I do like the blue. I feel like it just makes her look colder and more vampire-y. And then I gave her these black lips with these giant fangs. And then later I added a little bit of blood because I couldn't help myself. And I added some eyebrows. Originally, she was supposed to have very, like, dainty, like, elegant eyebrows, but I couldn't control the paintbrush, so she's got some nice, big, bulky ones. But to make up for that, I just gave Frankenstein even, like, bushier eyebrows so that hers looked more feminine, and it definitely worked, because I wanted to make a boy Frankenstein and a girl vampire, and they were going to be, like, looking at each other, like, flirty. So that was the idea. So now I'm just going over with a Sharpie and redrawing all those lines I drew at the beginning of the video, but this time on top of the paint. But I am glad that I drew it originally, because I definitely got a better feel of like where I wanted everything on the pumpkin. And oh, here's the flirty mouth. Hi there. And he's got his like one little tooth. I'm happy with that mouth. I think it turned out pretty cute. And I made his eyes hearts because I wanted it to be a little bit more obvious that he's like in love with the vampire. Yeah. When it comes to painting, it's... Well, what I noticed is you have to be very, very, very good at painting before you can really make emotions show through, because emotions are so, like, the simplest little thing that you miss can, like, throw off an entire, like, face to make their emotion look right. So I had to, like, emphasize things, like making the heart's eyes. Oh, shoot, I gotta talk about this. Okay, so, like I said, I ran out of white paint, so I went to my white gel pen. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a shot, maybe this will work. And it didn't work too badly, really. It did show up on the green paint for his face, and it definitely made, like, there was a difference between the eye and the skin. But later, I got this idea, wait, I have this white nail polish, I can just use that. Like, I'm running on, like, fumes here. I was, like, brainstorming the whole time. So I found my white nail polish that I actually got, like, 4 or 5 years ago from the supermarket on clearance afterwards. I got it for 19 cents. Sorry, I just had to put that out there because I'm so freaking thrilled about that. I'm still happy about that sale because it was like originally an $1.50 thing of nail polish. Sorry. Yeah, here's my nail polish. It's even got a cute little pumpkin on it. Isn't that cute? I thought it was festive. And then I used this metallic silver Sharpie to draw on the what is it, stitches, but later I do go over that with black. But it did work really well with the little bolts sticking out of the side of his head. And I couldn't decide whether I wanted actual bolts like sticking out of his head or if I was going to draw them on, but in the end I decided to draw them on, and because it was an excuse to use my silver Sharpie, which is so much fun. Like, it's so opaque. It has a different smell though. I don't really like the smell of, I don't know if I like the smell or not. It's a little weird. But yeah, and then I added stitches in black again, and then back to my vampire girl. It was time to do her eyelashes, and eyelashes are like my favorite part to draw, so I definitely took advantage of this. But it's definitely different drawing on like a pumpkin versus drawing on paper, so it was definitely an experience. And I'm just adding it in, making it sure that it looks the way I want, kind of like going over it a couple times. And by this time, like, my pen was running out of ink. This is why I don't do traditional, guys. Like, with digital, you just pick a color and you paint with it. With this, you gotta, like, decide, oh, what layer do I want this to be on? Because I have to do it first, and then I have to, you know, I have to paint the white on first, and I have to paint the black on that because I don't want the colors to mix. Like, it's just so much more you gotta think about. Whew. Multitasking. Like, hands out to the traditional artists out there because they're freaking amazing, and I am not. But I made it work, so I'm alright. And I gave her, like, eyelashes on the bottom too, and I just went over it with paint afterwards because, like I said, my pen was running out, and I really wanted her to be like blushing when like Frankenstein's flirting with her, but I didn't have a light enough pink, and I didn't have any white to mix with my red to make pink, so it just made it look like she had this nasty sunburn. And then I remembered I had the white nail polish, so I went over that, and it was too late to like mix the two colors, so I just went over it. But I feel like there's still this like subtle pink that's showing through, and it works alright. But I didn't realize it at the time. And then I added these cute little curly things because I feel like it made her look a little bit more feminine. And it reminded me of the spider in James and the Giant Peach, which I always thought she was really, really cool. So it's kind of inspired by her, and I definitely see the resemblance now because I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I do see it now. And I added a little bit of red to the cheeks, but I kind of regret that. But I do like the blood sticking out of her mouth. I think that's pretty cool. That's one of my favorite parts. And after that, I was done with my 2 flirty pumpkins, and here they are in all their glory, with some festive leaves around them. Let me know what you're doing with your drawing skills to decorate for Halloween, and I hope you all have a very happy Halloween. Full of candy. Bye!